Hello and welcome to Reason News with me, Allisha Gayapersad Chetty. Today we're revisiting a dark chapter in South African history, the assassination of Chris Hani. We then turn our attention to the Democratic Republic of Congo, a nation grappling with a complex and devastating conflict. President Cyril Ramaphosa signed controversial bills. There's a heated courtroom showdown between Hollywood star Blake Lively and actor-turned-director Justin Baldoni. And lastly, we give you an update in the world of sport. In April 1993, South Africa was on the cusp of a historic transition. Apartheid was crumbling and negotiations for a democratic future were underway. But amidst this hope, a tragedy struck. Chris Hani, the charismatic leader of the South African Communist Party, was gunned down outside his home. The assassination sent shockwaves through the nation, threatening to derail the fragile peace. The man responsible, Janusz Walusz, was an anti-communist Polish immigrant who saw Hani as an obstacle to his vision of a white-ruled South Africa. Walusz was convicted and sentenced to life in prison, but in 2022, after serving 28 years, he was granted parole, sparking outrage and reigniting the debate about justice and reconciliation. In a recent interview, Walusz showed no remorse for his actions, claiming he was motivated by patriotism and a desire to protect his people. His words have opened old wounds and raised questions about whether true healing is possible in a society still grappling with the legacy of apartheid.
I'm going to put it to you, and you may be offended, but I doubt it. From what you're saying, you are racist and you believe in white superiority, that white people are a superior race. Would you agree with that?
I will not beat around the bush. Okay, I agree because it's proven that white people can run the country. And it's proof that black people in most, besides the example which I given you of Biafra and things, they generally can't do that. They haven't got capacity, and you hear it more and more from black people themselves. If you call it superiority, doesn't mean that you have to right to oppress them in any way. And I don't take the not having voting rights oppression.
So you didn't think black people should have the right to vote?
They should right to vote in their homelands.
The story of Chris Hani's assassination is a reminder of the fragility of democracy and the enduring power of hate. But it's also a story of resilience and hope. Despite the pain and anger, South Africans choose the path of reconciliation, paving the way for a new era of freedom and equality. Now, the DRC has been plagued by violence for decades, fueled by ethnic tensions, political instability, and the competition for the country's vast mineral wealth. The eastern region, in particular, has become a battleground for numerous armed groups, leaving a trail of human suffering in their wake. The international community has repeatedly called for an end to the violence and a peaceful resolution to the conflict. However, progress has been elusive, and the situation on the ground remains dire. Recently, South Africa's ambassador to the United Nations, Matu Joyini, addressed the Security Council, urging decisive action against those who are undermining peace efforts in the DRC. She emphasized the need for a comprehensive approach that addresses the root causes of the conflict, including poverty, inequality, and impunity.
It is with profound regret that this meeting is taking place at a time when a number of peacekeepers have lost their lives and many others injured in the line of duty. 9 of these fallen peacekeepers are South Africans who showed immense bravery amidst relentless attacks from the M23. These attacks from the M23 are in violation of the ceasefire that was brokered through the Luanda process. We deplore the unwarranted attacks against MONUSCO and the South African Development Community Mission in the DRC's uniformed personnel who are deployed not only to promote peace, security, and stability in the Eastern DRC, but by extension in the African continent in general. Our sincere condolences go out to the families of those peacekeepers who have lost their lives, and we wish a speedy recovery to those injured. The cost of being a UN peacekeeper should never be this high. This Security Council has passed many resolutions that provide clear guidance on such violations carried out against peacekeepers. The Security Council must take decisive action against callous acts aimed at undermining its role and decisions aimed at maintenance of international peace and security. This Council must send a clear message that peacekeepers' lives matter. We must value and safeguard the contribution of those entrusted to carry out the mandates adopted in this chamber. Excellencies, it is concerning that the fundamental principle of sovereignty and territorial integrity enshrined in the UN Charter are being eroded and continue to be violated globally, including in the Eastern DRC, with the evident known and well-reported presence of external forces destabilizing that country. It is crucial for the Rwandan Defense Forces to cease support to the M23, and for the M23 to immediately cease all hostile actions and withdraw from occupied territories. We cannot accept a world wherein non-state actors are armed to do the will of other states, while those states refuse to accept responsibility for unnecessary armed violence and potential war crimes. Peacekeeping as a tool will be rendered ineffective when the peacekeepers and peacekeeping operations face complex political situations, such as that in the Eastern DRC, when other states get militarily involved in fueling conflict.
Ambassador Jerini's call for action comes at a critical time. The DRC is facing a humanitarian crisis of immense proportions, with millions displaced and in need of urgent assistance. The ongoing conflict is also exacerbating regional instability, with spillover effects in neighboring countries. South Africa is taking a strong stance, demanding that Rwanda withdraw its troops from Eastern DRC and cease its alleged support for the M23 rebel group. This comes in the wake of intense fighting near Goma, which resulted in the tragic loss of 9 South African soldiers. The situation in Eastern DRC remains volatile, with the potential for further escalation. The loss of South African soldiers underscores the high stakes involved and the urgent need for a comprehensive and sustainable solution. President Cyril Ramaphosa is facing growing challenges not just from the opposition but from within his own coalition. The catalyst: the signing of 2 controversial bills into law. First, let's discuss the Expropriation Bill. This land reform legislation allows the government to seize land without providing compensation. The aim is to address a long-standing issue. Despite the end of apartheid over 3 decades ago, the majority of black South Africans own only a small fraction of the country's farmland. However, this move has not been without opposition. The Democratic Alliance, or the DA, the second largest party in Ramaphosa's government of national unity, has strongly voiced its disapproval.
His own coalition partners have declared a dispute with the government after the president signed some controversial bills into law. Ramaphosa has approved the controversial Expropriation Bill. It is a land reform bill that is strongly opposed by the Democratic Alliance, or the DA, the second largest party in Ramaphosa's government of national unity. Now, the law allows the government to seize land without having to pay compensation. It replaces the pre-democratic Expropriation Act of 1975 and outlines how expropriation can be done and on what basis by the state. It can benefit the country's majority black citizens who own just a small fraction of farmland, more than 30 years after the end of apartheid. Most landowners are a part of the white minority, and those advocating for the white minority rights, like the DA, a pro-business opposition party, are opposing the bill. The party has in fact declared a dispute and has called for an overhaul of relations within the Government of National Unity. It has criticized Ramaphosa's African National Congress Party, or the ANC, for failing to adhere to the procedures set out in a coalition deal agreed last year. The party has also slammed Ramaphosa's approval of the National Health Insurance Act, which it says will ban the private sector from offering cover for treatment available under the law. The DA has also rejected parts of an education bill that Ramaphosa assented to in September, complaining that it gives the government excessive powers to determine language policy and admission criteria in state-run schools. Meanwhile, another conservative party in Ramaphosa's coalition, the Freedom Front Plus party, has vowed to challenge the land seizure law. The party says it will do everything in its power to have it amended if it is found to be unconstitutional. Both of these parties joined Ramaphosa's ANC to form a government of unity last year. This after the ANC lost its parliamentary majority for the first time in 30 years and was forced to join hands with rival parties.
Adding to the tension is the approval of the National Health Insurance Act. The DA claims this legislation will effectively ban the private sector from offering coverage for treatments available under the new law, potentially reshaping the country's healthcare landscape. In response to these developments, the DA has called for a comprehensive reassessment of relations within the Government of National Unity. They've described the situation as a dispute with the government, signalling a potential fracture in the coalition. These events raise important questions about the future of South Africa's political landscape. Will the coalition withstand this test, or are we witnessing the beginning of a significant shift in the country's governance? As the situation continues to unfold, we'll be here to provide you with the latest updates. Now, moving abroad, we've got a real Hollywood grudge match brewing. Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni, and it's getting ugly. These co-stars turned courtroom rivals are locked in a bitter legal battle. Lively claims Baldoni created a toxic work environment and is now trying to trash her reputation. Baldoni fires back, saying she's twisting the truth and making false accusation. But wait, there's more. Lively and her husband, Ryan Reynolds, are so dismayed by Baldoni's attorney's statements to the press that they are formally requesting the judge to restrict his communication with the media. They want a gag order to stop the mudslinging.
So this all started with when Blake Lively, the actress, first filed a civil rights complaint and then an official lawsuit against her co-star and the director of her movie It Ends With Us, accusing Justin Baldoni of sexual harassment, a hostile work environment on the set, and organizing a retaliatory PR campaign against her after she spoke about Baldoni's alleged misconduct. That's her main allegation. And she accused Baldoni of making inappropriate comments about her appearance, improvising intimate scenes on set, talking about pornography, coming into her trailer unannounced, including while she was breastfeeding. And she says, in terms of the retaliatory campaign that he allegedly spearheaded with a PR specialist and a crisis management expert, in her filing, she included screenshots of messages between the defendants that she obtained through a subpoena. Messages like, "I'm having reckless thoughts of wanting to plant pieces this week of how horrible Blake is to work with, just to get ahead of it." Or how about this, where Baldoni, quote, "wants to feel like she can be buried," with a response from the crisis manager, "You know we can bury anyone." Now, Baldoni not only countered this with a bombshell lawsuit of his own, but he basically accused Lively of deliberately misrepresenting situations and conversations to ruin his reputation, and also that she slowly took control over the film that he directed and produced. Because in his lawsuit, he included text conversations as well that he says refutes Lively's claims, such as a text where she allegedly invited him into her trailer while she was breastfeeding, or other conversations purportedly showing that she refused to meet with an intimacy coordinator and he had to be the middle person to work out the scenes with her. In other words, he tried to refute all of her allegations, and included in that is newly released footage from his lawyer, Brian Friedman, which is what we're going to get into. I should also tell you, by the way, that he sued the New York Times, too, for defamation, because they published a piece titled, "We Can Bury Anyone Inside a Hollywood Smear Machine," and this was published the day after Lively filed her complaint. And he said this was deliberate, that this had been worked out with Lively, and that the publication produced a misleading report on selective evidence, that it didn't publish the full context of what was happening. And they wrote a letter to the district court judge who's overseeing this case, essentially requesting a gag order. I think that's a fair assertion, because they tell the judge, look, Lively filed her complaint with the California Civil Rights Department, and at the same time, a cease and desist letter was sent to Baldoni and the defendants, like Wayfarer, his production company, demanding, quote, that they immediately cease and desist all unlawful conduct toward the Lively Reynolds parties and their affiliates, including their harassing and retaliatory media and online campaign against Miss Lively. And they attached a copy of that letter.
This is one Hollywood showdown you do not want to miss. Now, in the world of sport, the Orcus Running Club in Durban is set to host its first ultramarathon in April. Spinner Jomal Warrican took 5 wickets as the West Indies won a test match in Pakistan on Monday for the first time in nearly 35 years. Matthew van der Poel geared up for the World Championships next month by winning the final 2 races of the Cyclocross World Cup this weekend. The Sunrisers Eastern Cape hit yet another speed bump in their quest to defend their SA20 title. Inter Milan kept up the pressure on Serie A leaders Napoli on Sunday with a convincing 4-0 win at lowly Lecce, which moved the defending champions 3 points from the summit. AC Milan turned jeers to cheers on Sunday as 2 goals in stoppage time gave the 7-time European champions a stunning 3-2 win over Parma in Serie A. Alexander Zverev said that Yannick Sinner is as good as Novak Djokovic at his peak and on a different universe after the German was well beaten in Sunday's Australian Open final. Whether it's international conflicts, political scandals or Hollywood showdowns, Reason News is here to bring you the stories that matter. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. And be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching.